So I'm just going to start with a little introduction. Again, thank you everyone for coming and welcome to another exciting guest lecture from Hospitality Academy. I'm Camila from HA, as you know, and I'm really excited to be hosting the lecture today. Today we have a very special topic that's very relevant in this world, which is leading a world without borders. Our guest speaker is no other than Ismail Dinia, who has a pretty cool company called Hosstinn, and he's a respected expert in global hospitality leadership. So how about you, Ismail? We're very happy to have you here today.
Hi, Camila. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Really, really excited about the upcoming session. I think it's going to be really interesting. And yeah, thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you. We're always excited to have someone like you joining us. And okay, for the people watching us right now, can you please write in the chat, where are you guys watching us from? Where are you from? Where are you now? Thank you for taking the time to join the lecture today. So if you want to write in the little chat where you are watching us from.
Nice. Louisville. Okay. It's from Kenya. Amazing.
Colorado. Nice. As usual, we have people from all over, which is amazing. Ecuador, in California, more world globetrotters and travelers.
Love that. Colombia, sí, señor.
Okay. So, so let's move on. How are you today, Ismail? What can you tell us about your day? Let's give people one more minute and then we can start the lecture.
Good. Really busy day, as we were like discussing before, but as we said, busy and intense is good. It means that things are happening. But I'm actually really excited to speak to you and to whoever is listening. And hopefully I'll be able to inspire or at least help anyone. And of course, anyone listening, if they want to contact me afterward directly, I'm always open to help out or to give advice, as if anyone would listen, of course. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good one, and can't wait to start.
I'm sure it will be. And guys, you should take advantage of this. You don't always have a good mentor offering help for free. Okay, so I think we can start.
And okay, shall we?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So do you want me to introduce myself? Do you want to do? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So my name is Ismail Dinia, as Camila said. I've graduated from Le Roche in Marbella in 2011. And ever since, I've been traveling and working in hotels all over the world, from big hotel chains like Ritz-Carlton or Fairmont, as well as small independent hotel. I'm fluent in 4 languages. I've lived in, I think I'm writing over there, in Barcelona, in Paris, in Ibiza, in Marbella, Chicago, Phuket, and Lisbon. I'm currently based in Malaga, in the south of Spain, and my company, Hosstinn, which is a learning experience platform, which is kind of a learning management system coupled with AI to be able to tailor the content and the courses and the training to every single user out there. So every single user can learn its own way, basically. I've traveled over the world. It's something that I've always loved doing, discovering new culture, meeting new people, and yeah, just be part of this world. There's so many things to do and see. I really wanted to be part of this webinar and like actually speaking about this topic, especially given, I think, the current climate. I think it's global, where basically there is this climate of divide and fear of the other, or yeah, being, yeah, I think fear could be a good word. While I think my personal experience that I actually wanted to share with you guys, where the more you're open, the more you travel, and the more you're interested, or like showing interest for the other person, I think life just simply gets better, both for the person, the interested one, and the other person also. Yeah, I'm also familiar with sectors in Vietnam and Australia, but yeah, the general idea is that I've traveled. I love doing that. I'm still doing it. And I think that gives me a certain point of view that I want to share with you guys to try and maybe make you understand or try to answer any questions that you may have and maybe give you a few tips to make your experience better wherever you are. Good. So I think we can jump in. The first thing that we're going to see are the objectives of this session, where the first things first, we need to understand what it means to work in a global world with global teams, the challenges that are associated with working with global teams, and strategies and tips and tricks to learn to like improve, like anything else, it's stuff that we can work on to improve your experience within the country, hotel, company, wherever you're working that is not in your home country. So first things first, what does it mean to work in a global team? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It means working with members from different countries, cultures, backgrounds, that don't have the same upbringing as you, that don't have the same view of society, of the country, of even of work, but that can maybe complement your own vision. I think the more the merrier, and the more diverse a team is, the better it is. And I'm not the only one thinking it, given the importance that it has in hospitality. I'm sure you've already heard, sorry, I'm sure I've already heard of the Marriott Inclusion Program. I know Hilton has one. I know Accor has one. All of them are, I think in the US, it's called Equal Employment Opportunity, if I remember correctly, where I think it's quite easy to understand why. The more diverse a team is, I think the better first service we can offer a client or a guest. And I think just all in all, we can just be better and have a better vision of really what's going on around us. So when we say that, there's obviously challenges associated with it. There is really, in my own experience, 4 big challenges when working in a global environment. The first one are the work practices that are very different, or that can be very different from one country to another. I've given these 3 examples, but it's mostly because they're the ones that I'm familiar with. But every single country is different from the other based on, well, actually stuff that we're going to be seeing. So first things first, the work practices. In Thailand, the US, and Spain, for example, we do work differently, which is it can sound pretty basic right now, but it is something that one should know before working in another country. As an example, in Thailand, for example, it's 10.5 hours per day. And it does reflect on the high value and job dedication that people give within that country, and the loyalty that is associated. The more you work, the more or the better you're seen as loyal, obviously, to the company where you're at. In the US, for example, overtime is typically paid, but only for entry-level jobs. I remember correctly, if it didn't change, managers didn't have the right to have extra time paid, but they were the ones who stayed 10, 12 hours per day. And the work culture is more emphasized on efficiency and result. While Spain, there is a recent law that just passed recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, where they reduced the working week from 40 hours to 37 and a half. So there is a strong labor union there, like there is focusing on workers' rights and their benefits. So all of these three or work practices are very differently. And one will not be working the same in Thailand than it is in Spain. There is an average, I think Thailand works 10 more hours per week than Spain. So this is really important for you to understand and to know before moving to a country, to know like what is it that you need to know and what is that you need to understand, and if it's something that really is for you or not, before actually making the decision. So other than the work practices, the second challenge are the cultural norms. This is also can seem pretty basic and pretty obvious, but it is definitely something that we should look into before moving to a country. For example, in Thailand, as it says there, the culture highly values respect for hierarchy and seniority. Community and family are central, influencing the workplace dynamics and the decision-making process. While in the US, it's a lot more individualistic society, like it's the American dream. The harder you work, the more success you can have and the more money you can have. Where there is obviously like a social security system that is more privatized than in Spain, for example. So it is also something that can be beneficial, but also like it can has is its own cons, basically. There is no culture or no work practices is better than the other. This is something that's really, really, really important to emphasize. You cannot, when moving to a country, compare it with your own culture. I mean, you can compare it, of course, but there is no better or worse. There are cultures or cultural norms that you can have more affinity with, and there are others that are just simply not for you. In Spain, just to finish the cultural norms, it's a more laid back. I'm sure you've all heard about the siesta, but there is also people tend to work later. The shops are usually open until 10, 11 at night. And they have really, really, really good social welfare and protections. Just to give you an example, maternity leave is 4 months. I think it was like 6 months for women. It moved to 4 months for men a few months ago. In the US, I think men don't have the right for paternity leave. So yeah, those are cultural norms that one should expect and should read about and get a lot of information about before deciding if a country is for them or not. It's very different, also just something, it's very different to visit a country and be like, oh, I love this country, I want to live in it as holiday. And the other, which is actually live in it and paying taxes and actually being part of the community. And the last two, which are equally as important, if not more, are the language barriers. Of course, like back when I moved to Thailand, I did not speak a word of Thai. The English was not very popular back then, and not a lot of people actually spoke English. So misunderstandings are very easy, and especially for non-native speakers. I remember like actually the working in hotels, like, the pass on between shifts. In Thailand, it was done in Thai. So I was like, hello, sorry, I don't understand what's going on. So this is also something very, very, very important. And last but not least, and I think it is the most important one, is the isolation. Living in a different country, you usually leave your family behind. Sometimes you leave your friends behind also, and you arrive all on your own. You don't know anyone. You don't have any support system, and that can be very, very, very tough mentally. So it's really important also before moving in to look at expats group, to look at groups in general, to see if the hotel has other like ask the hotel if they have other people from different backgrounds, different nationality, and you can understand it. For example, I refused an internship in China, and it was in Shenzhen, like close to Hong Kong, because I was going to be the only foreigner there. And as much as I wanted to go and live and experience China, I said no, because I know I was going to be too far. I was going to be like completely alone. And coming back, I was living in Spain back in the day. Coming back to Spain was not going to be that easy if things didn't work out. So all of these challenges are really, really, really important. And they are stuff that you should have in mind before actually joining a different hotel or a different country as an expat. Yeah, example solution, even though like I did give some already, like the biggest challenge are the miscommunication and cultural misunderstanding. Especially like one thing also as an advice, if I can give you, never ever judge a cultural event, for example. Whether I can give you tons of examples, but never basically don't ever judge a country, compare it based on your norms and culture, because that's the worst thing you can do, because every country and every culture is different. There's no worst or better. The only thing that you're going to do is alienate the people around you, and they're like basically just like you wouldn't want anyone to insult your country and your culture. Well, just put yourself in the shoes of the other person. And I think the easiest solution of that, sorry, Camila, if you could just go back, the easiest solution for that is try to be part of the local customs and tradition. When you arrive in the new country, try to have friends from that country, try to be part of a group that go and check, that explain what the traditions are, and keep an open mind, which I think I just said. Don't ever judge or compare it to your own culture. And from there, like I said at the beginning, you can actually build your leadership skills to improve that experience. There are really two sides or two points, I guess. The first one are the skills that you need to have, and the other one is the mindset that you need to have. So the first one is you need to have three essential skills. You need to be able to communicate in a clear and effective way. You need to be very flexible and very open to change. And you need to understand the other person and show empathy towards different perspective, different background, everything that's different, basically. The best way to do this, especially given, I think, if English is your primary language, or if you move to another different country, I think English is going to be like the first. Maria, it happened. Camila, you reading the chat? Do I keep on talking, or do you want me to read it?
If you want, we can just continue talking, and then
Okay.
at the end we can just
Sounds good.
Continue with all the comments, the questions, and everything.
Sounds good.
But yes, please don't feel shy to share your experiences and
Okay.
everything
Yeah,
here,
definitely.
so we can get back to it later.
So yeah, like simple tips, like don't use native language. I remember back when I arrived in the US, that was like about 10 years ago. I was living in Chicago, and my roommates were from there and everything. And the first time I had a friend telling me, "Hey, can you do me a solid?" And I was like, sorry, what? So like this kind of jargon and anything that's maybe for you is natural and normal because, well, that's how you grew up talking. But for someone else that's like a second, third, or even fourth language, she's definitely not going to understand you. And like I said, the flexibility, you need to be able to adapt to the cultural context. It's not the country that's going to adapt to you, but it's you who has to adapt to the country. And for example, to show empathy, you need to acknowledge and value that each team member brings to the table. You don't have to be a supervisor or manager to do this. You can do that with every single job, really. And the more open and the more you show appreciation for what the other person brings, I think that's a trick for every, like even a personal life. The other person is going to be very grateful and is going to see this as an opportunity to share even more and be close to you. And the second part of how to build your leadership skills has to do with the mindset. You always have to be learning. Camilla, if you can move. Yeah, thank you. You always have to be learning and have an open mind. You always have to be seeking new challenges, engage in mentorship and feedback. The reason why I offered my help at the beginning is actually not by coincidence, but it is because people have done it for me before, and I want to do it for others now. So when it comes to seeking international challenges, look for international assignments. Look for, even though if it's not for work, I know in Europe there's a program called the Erasmus program. I don't know if there is something similar in the US, but where basically every country within Europe as a student can go and do like a year of university in another country. It's very, very popular here. So like every opportunity, whether with the government or university or hospitality academy, because I do believe that you guys do that, or even as private, I'm sure you have like summer camps and stuff like that. The more you actually go and engage with different culture, and the earlier you do so, I think the better you are for it at afterward. And yeah, also like regarding mentorship and feedback, just like seek feedback from both peers, like ask your friends and colleagues, who are you? How can you improve? What is it that you do well? What is it that you don't do well? We actually have very good leadership program also on our platform. That's actually very, very popular. Yeah, so based on this, how do you actually cultivate a global mindset? So first of all, explaining a global mindset, which I think is the theme, and we've already like kind of said so, is being open and adaptable to different culture and perspective. You need to understand how the world is interconnected right now, how literally everything is easier to achieve, in the sense of it's a lot more easier to travel now than it was 50 years ago. So it's definitely something that should be taken into consideration. And there are strategies to be able to excel in having a global mindset. First part, I think the continuous learning. You have to stay informed about like global trends, the cultural differences through reading. If you can't travel, at least read, attend webinars, participate in relevant courses. But I think just simply like honestly, there's so many like watching YouTube videos and watching there is I forgot the name, I'm sorry, but at the end of it, actually we recommend a few books and web and blogs for you to actually improve this. um, uh, like I said at the beginning, you have to be exposed to different cultures as early as possible. So like travel, attend international conferences, and network with different groups. I think especially now with like LinkedIn, it's very easy to get in touch with people from all over the world. And like I mentioned, the exchange programs before, that is definitely part of it. What are the benefit of this? It's not only something that you can use on a professional level, but also on a personal level. Um, Developing a global mindset will absolutely help you have a broader perspective and great cultural sensitivity. I think there's nothing better than that, because when people ask me where I'm from a lot of places. And to be honest, I cannot pick. Of course, I spend more time in Spain and in Morocco than I did in other countries. But I've learned something back when I used to live in the US. I loved like the fact of the more you work, the more you can gain. Like everything depends on you, on like the meritocracy of it. I still do like the whole laid back and the whole like social work of Spain, for example, or in Thailand or in Southeast Asia in general, the whole being a community first. So like I think we can learn from every single country and every single culture. And I think the more you learn, the better you are at everything. You'd be better, like by learning that, you can learn how to negotiate your next salary or your next promotion. You can learn how to, if you're stuck in a job, for example, you can learn how to look for another job that's going to give you more opportunity and open more doors for you. So it definitely, and that I guess is the business outcomes. And even for companies, even I know right now as a founder of a startup, I understand that someone who has an international experience, even if they're lacking a degree, for example, I'm going to go more for them because I know they're adaptable, they're flexible, they're open-minded. So all of these are soft skills that they don't necessarily teach us in school, but that are so necessary in today's like global market, basically. So it's definitely, I think, something that we should look into in details, and that we should work like any other thing, basically, to get better at. So the fifth chapter is how can you engage your global team as a leader? A leader in this case, and I've said it before, is not necessarily the title. We're not talking about like a CEO, a manager, a general manager. Anyone can be a leader in their own roles, and it's something that is very, very, very important. And a manager can be a leader, but they also cannot be a leader. So like the difference is also very, very important to have. And as an entry-level receptionist or waiter, anything can actually be a leader and uplift the team and the people that are around you. And how can you actually do that? The first things first is by engaging them. We've been talking about flexibility this whole time, and the flexible communication should be very, very, very important. Not everyone communicates the same way, and you need to adapt to the person that you have in front of you. You need to adapt to the need of the person that are in front of you. A clear example is you have people that love public praises and others that don't. So for example, if you go and like publicly praise someone who's more shy and he just wants to do their job, they actually might take it the wrong way, for example. So it's very, very important to adapt your way of talking and your just communication style to the person who you have in front of you. And then also like recognize the cultural holidays, celebrate every single important cultural event that you have. If you have a friend, just to give you an example, that is Chinese, well, in that case, maybe like celebrate, even though like it's a small, like Chinese New Year is a small token of appreciation. If they're Indian, Diwali, for example, if they're Muslim, Ramadan, if they're Christian, Christmas. I don't think, I don't want to get too much into like cultural appropriation and everything. I'm not saying like dress yourself as a Chinese. I'm just saying like go and actually acknowledge the event itself, and anything else. And it goes both ways, really. If you are Spanish and living in the US, me personally, I loved Christmas in Chicago. I had so much fun, even though I don't celebrate Christmas. So like the more open and the more openness and the more acceptance, I guess that's the word, you show the other person, the more they're gonna absolutely love you for it. And it goes to actually with the second point that is really as important, which is creating an inclusive environment where everyone can be themselves, and more importantly, like feel comfortable enough to be themselves. And how can you do that? By fostering open dialogue. Make sure that everyone has their own voice. Make sure that not only when someone speaks that you are actually listening. And if it's a good idea, try to implement it together with that person. For also like give them space for them to voice their concerns, their thoughts without repercussion. The whole, okay, like the feedback, like when a feedback is negative, don't yell at the person for telling you that's feedback, obviously. But be like, okay, yeah, sure, thank you for your feedback. We'll definitely take it into consideration, and we can work together towards improving this situation, for example. The opportunities to contribute, which is actually what I just said, rope them in when there is an issue, when someone comes to you with an issue or just with like a good idea. It doesn't have to be positive or negative, but make sure that that team member feels valued and heard, and that the input that they give is actually put in place. And you can even actually, people actually love that, give them that responsibility. Okay, you came up with this idea. I think it's a great idea. Go for it. Like try to implement it yourself, and I can help you, and I can help you actually do that. Also the really, really, really important part is, other than fostering open dialogue, which is what I just did, give them the opportunity to celebrate, or you can do it actually yourself, celebrate the diversity. The more diverse a team is, the more it deserves celebration. So it's important to recognize and appreciate like the diverse perspectives and the diverse contribution. When someone achieves something or a special milestone or anything, make sure that it is highlighted and celebrated and that everyone knows about it, depending on how of course, the employee wants to be praised, like we said before. And I think, yes, we are in the Q&A session, so please feel free to say anything and ask any questions that you have.
So first of all, thank you so much, Ismail, because I think I'm speaking for myself, but also for almost everyone who's hearing the lecture right now. I think most of us, even the students, are foreigners living in other countries and working in other countries. So all of this is super useful for everyone, and we can all relate to having felt that this way or having lived these situations. And I think it's really important, the adaptability that you mentioned before. So yes, please, guys, I encourage you to ask your questions, ask anything about anything that you'd like to Ismail, and take advantage that he's here right now. I'm going to go back to the comment that we had from Maria del Carmen earlier today. It says, it happened to me. I went to an internship and don't ask about if we are doing some program. And I was the only one. Months later, they added another person. We both became very good friends. I tried to connect with locals and the experience was kind of lonely, but it worked out. So yeah,
Good
I
to
agree.
hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And yeah, sorry, I'll let you.
Here it says, I wanted to know if you have any recommendation about study-work balance for someone who has never studied and worked at the same time.
That is a very good question. And I think it's, to be honest, something as a founder of a tech startup, I am currently like struggling with to find the perfect balance. It is something that's very, very hard to do. I think the only question I can give you is, or I can ask you is, what's more important to you right now? And I understand that both of them can be very important. And in that case, you need to make the effort of stopping. I think that's the hardest thing to do, especially for me. I'm speaking about personal experience here, is to say stop. Like you're sometimes like so much into study or so much into work that you have like your head is so far down the rabbit hole that you have like a hard time stopping. And sometimes it's really good to just stop, take a step back, and value and weight what's really important to you at that moment. If it's study, then focus on the studying part. If it's work because bills need to be paid, then focus on the work part. If it's personal because you haven't seen your family, in that case, focus on that part. I'm sorry, I don't have like an exact solution, but I guess that's how I do it. At that moment, what is more important for you?
Here we have someone saying that if we can share the recording, yes, we will share it with everyone, and it will be on YouTube as well, so you can always go back and watch it. Now, Maria Carolina is asking, I was checking out the Hosstinn website and I was wondering how Hosstinn uses AI to identify areas of improvement in hotel operations.
Good question. So the way we work is, first of all, we have a survey. We work together with the GM or with the HR manager, and we highlight what the issues are or what areas needs of improvement. And then each user select their interests. And based on those interests, based on which department you're working on, based on the needs of the hotel, the system take that into consideration. Also, like how other people in the same category as you, in the same job position as you, the feedback that they've given us, we take that into consideration, and then the system recommends like a series of courses depending on those needs. And for every course that you finish, you give us a feedback, and the recommendation and the AI actually improves that recommendation part. And the more you do, basically, the more personalized it is. that's the quick answer.
Now we have another one. Are there any specific challenges unique to the hospitality industry when leading global teams compared to other industries?
Yes, very, very good question, and definitely. There is in the hospitality industry in general, in every single country, the 90% of the workers are immigrants, because they're the only jobs that they can find, because they're usually jobs that don't require a degree, because of the turnover, so people can find jobs quite easily. So I think that's definitely something to take into consideration when managing a team, more importantly, because everyone, like, the backgrounds are so different that you cannot manage a team of reception in a hotel to say something in Chicago, Texas, or France, or whatever, the same way you would manage a consulting company in Madrid, where maybe like everyone has the same background, the same degree, the same nationality, the same language, etc., etc. So I think it is a bit more unique in the hospitality industry, given the background of everyone, because we have it spans like so different, that you cannot have like a one size fits all for everything. You absolutely need to like speak to the other person and get involved to be able to actually manage that person. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Here they say, Manuel is asking, you noted that language differences can lead to misunderstandings. What are some best practices for ensuring clear communication when team members have varying levels of language proficiency?
Like I said before, try to avoid words like jargon, and actually like even simpler than this, just make sure that the other person understood, by asking them as simple as this: hey, is this clear? Hey, have I explained myself the right way? There's actually an anecdote. They actually do that in I want to say Navy SEALs, but I might be wrong, but I understand it's like a branch of a armies, maybe not even the Navy SEALs. But every time like an order is given, not every time, but when there's like a mission and everyone needs to understand if the mission is actually understood, they make sure that, okay, is this clear? Have I explained myself the right way? And I've had like all my best teachers actually do that also. It's like repeating yourself and making sure that by asking that question, the other person understood you. And I think it's simple because you give the other person the opportunity to speak up. Not everyone, sometimes people are like shy. They're like, oh, I didn't understand. I don't want the other person to think I'm stupid. I think it happened to all of us. So I'm simply not going to say anything. And at the end of the day, the job is not done. But simply because they didn't understand, not because they didn't know how to do it. And even though if they didn't know how to do it, they should say so. But I think, yeah, the easiest way to avoid misunderstanding and the best practices is, did you just understand what I just said? I think that's how I do it. Great. Thank you, guys.
And we have one final question. I think they sent it to me directly, but it says, can you give us an example where adaptability played a very important role in your leadership success in a multicultural setting?
Well, there's some really great questions. I'm gonna do the opposite, I think. I'm gonna give you an example of my lack of flexibility led to me getting fired. But yeah, I was young and I didn't adapt. And it happened in Thailand. So coming from Spain and my previous experiences, I simply didn't know that Thailand was, I think it was 10 hours per day of work. It was like 5-6 days a week. It was the pass on that were going to be done in Thai. And I simply refused to adapt. And because of that, like, and of course, like my manager back at the time didn't help because the pass on were done in Thai. Like, she spoke English but refused to speak to me in English. I don't know why. But basically, like, that led to the people around me not being happy, and even myself having like the worst possible experience ever because I was dreading going to work. So I guess the adaptability is very, very important. While maybe like now I should answer your question. When I was in the US, it was like as adaptable and flexible. They've asked me to work night shifts, for example. They've asked me to work in different departments. And that led to me getting promoted faster than anyone else. I managed to reach, I went there as a management, like kind of like internship management program. And after a year, I was managing the whole front office department, and I was 24 at that time. So I guess it goes both ways. Like the more flexible you are, and the more you say yes to things because you want to say yes, the better it's going to work for you. If you go against and you refuse to adapt and be flexible, it's going to work against you.
Thank you.
Sandra,
Yes, go ahead.
how can leaders build and maintain empathy within a global team, especially when team members may have vastly different backgrounds and experiences? Very, very good question. I think we could be talking, thank you. We could be talking about empathy for a whole other webinar. But I think the easiest solution or the easiest answer, sorry, should be how would you want to be treated? If you were that person, if you were a person within a global team with your background and experience very different from the others, how would you want the others to treat you? And I think based on that answer, you should treat the person that are having different backgrounds and experiences the way you would want to be treated. But I think empathy is the best thing. Make sure that they have a voice, make sure that they're acknowledged, make sure that they're seen, that the job that they're doing, when a job is well done, make sure that it is something that should be acknowledged and highlighted. And most importantly, just listen. I think active listening is very, very, very important. Hear what they have to say. Don't just dismiss it or think that you've heard it. A lot of managers actually do that. They hear it, but they never actually like bring it up again, or they just like sweep it under the rug. So I think, yeah, the best way to show empathy within a global team and to other people is just to make sure that everyone has a voice, that no one is louder than the other, and that most importantly, no one sets their own rules. I think sometimes you do have that when you work with in any team, actually. You have one who has more charisma and has more voice and is louder in general than the others. And so people tend to listen to him or her. But I don't think that's very beneficial for the whole team. I think everyone should be treated equal, everyone should have a voice, and everyone should have should be heard and seen. I think that's the best answer I can give you. I hope I answered it.
Thank you so much. And now, finally, I think you had some books and materials and resources that you wanted
Yes.
to share with everyone attending here. So I'm just gonna go to this slide to quickly, so you can quickly introduce it to them.
Yes. So three things, and there's also like tons of actually like I forgot here the YouTube channels. But for people that love to read, I recommend two blogs and three books, which are the Harvard Business Reviews about global leadership, which is like amazing with like different articles written by different leaders. So you can learn a lot from people with a lot of experience. And the one from Forbes about leadership in a global world. Both of them have very different views, and they actually like give the floor to a lot of very, very, very interesting people with a lot more experience than I have. For the people that prefer to listen, there is the Global Leadership podcast that you can find, I think, everywhere on Spotify, Apple Music, and every type of platforms. And actually the Harvard Business Review Idea Cast. Harvard Business Review is definitely something that everyone should be reading, or every young professional, or actually every professional should be reading. And three books. If you have to read only one, I recommend The Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, which is amazing. It teaches you simple, like I was very shy at the beginning and I had like really difficulties like to try and approach groups or even at networking events. And the Never Eat Alone book is really, really interesting because it teaches you a lot of simple tricks on how to engage with people that you have never met, people that you don't know who to speak with. And it's really, really, really interesting. And then there's the two others, The Culture Map by Erin Meyer and Leading with Cultural Intelligence by David Livermore. If you want more, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and I'll be very happy to send more. And yeah, hopefully this was very beneficial and inspiring, and that I've actually tried to help a little.
Thank you so much, Ismail, and thank you everyone for attending the lecture and being here with us one more time. I think it was super insightful. I think everyone here can learn a lot from your experience, your recommendation, and just because it's true. And the more the time passes, the more we're living in a global world where we can travel, we can work, live, study, do everything everywhere, and we are surrounded by people from all sorts of backgrounds, cultures, and everything. So I think it's super important for all of us to try to adapt, learn, and it also gives us a lot of good things in the professional and in life in general. So I think we can definitely take advantage of all the things that you've told us today. Thank you so much again. And well, guys, you know, you can add him on Instagram and he'll answer all of your questions. And take a look at Hosstinn. And well, see you soon. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone,
very
for
much, Camila.
joining.
Thank you
And
guys for listening. And thank you for having me.
anytime. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.